Okay, so I'm going to be good at this time, right? Because we've been doing this 4 times in a row. And so
our intro is scripted. It's easy.
Yes, it is. We have something that we know that we say, which is, what is a language? What is an operating system? What is a computer? What's the difference? Welcome to Adjunct of Computing.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm getting closer and closer to absolutely nailing it.
Fitting into the neurons now.
So thank you for joining us for a 4th week running. Today, this was 180. We have cracked 180 now, I think. All about tape, going. Which I think is a great and veritable, just like huge garden of stuff to talk about, because tape is just, it's a very general topic that is applicable to like all of early computing. So this episode really could go a lot of places. I'll try and keep it reined in, but that's not the goal. So we'll just see what happens.
I will say this was one of those episodes where I set out to do one thing and everything kind of blew up in my face. I wanted to talk about, because I just learned about the IBM Noodle Picker. Very funny.
Who told you about that, Sean?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe someone in the room right now. I just had never known about it. And I'd seen tape robots. I hadn't worked with tape robots before, but at NASA Ames, I got to see one operating. So I was like, I'll do an episode on tape robots. And I started looking into it, and it's like, well, tape robots are a little too new for my usual fare, except the Noodle Picker would fit. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll talk about early tape and then talk about how the Noodle Picker is different. And that didn't work. I got too hung up on early tape because, like you were saying, it's such a huge topic, and there's so much about it and so much like little detail.
Yes.
So there's going to be more. I know
this might
people
go
on the Patreon were already saying, oh, I can't wait for there to be more because there's a lot more on the table. And that's true. It will continue.
I'm sure. And it's also a topic where I think it's cool because, again, you lead the whole episode off with kind of the ubiquity of tape, right? In that it becomes like it's a short meme for a yeah. There's a cool technical word for this. Meme is the closest I could get.
That's a much more relatable term than being like, it is a visually interesting shorthand. No, it is kind of a meme.
Well, and your words in there that clicked in my head. It becomes a visual shorthand for computing for so long. And yet, like, what's actually going on there is something that, like, nobody knows is not the right way to put it, but, like, it's not something that people think about a lot, I think. They just say, there's tape drive, there be data on that, end of story.
Well, and the fact that it's so visually distinctive with, like, the flicking and how it moves, and that's not just for show. That's for a very technical reason that has to do with block seeking.
Right.
And
that's super being used to, like, reel-to-reels, and having, like, a general idea of how a reel-to-reel tape player works. I always looked at them for the longest time, and I thought exactly that. Like, oh, they're just, like, making them fly around to, like, make it look cool. And no, it's just the way they work. That's why you need vacuum columns. But we will get all back to that.
Yes.
The first thing that I need to lead off with, now that everybody knows what the context of the episode is for people who listened to the episode, and I already said this is going to be a throwaway, but you can't talk about everything B horror movies and not expect me to mention Plan 9 from Outer Space. I think here's basically the entire topic there is just, I guess all nerds like bad B movies.
I think so. I usually write the hooks, like the cold open for the show, the morning I record at my kitchen table. And I was talking about it with my wife, and she's like, Sean, they all know that you like bad movies. That's not going to be a revelation to anyone. It's like, well, no, I want to pretend to be dark and mysterious, perhaps.
Yeah. So anyway, that's basically it for Plan 9. I have no idea if you're ever planning to do an episode on Plan 9. It feels a little bit too late for your computer history to go into. It is a little too late.
Yeah. I want to. I probably will. More topically, have you watched The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra?
No, so this is the funny thing, and maybe I'll have to.
It's so good.
I'm a big movie person. I enjoy a good movie. I've never been particularly into B movies, is the irony here.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I'm not like not into them. It's just not been a thing that I dive deeply into. So lay it on me, because sometime when I have time to watch a movie again, because have I mentioned I have a kid?
Okay.
So fair. It's G-rated stuff all the time, or sleeping for me, but yeah.
I don't know what the rating on Lost Skeleton is, but it's from, I think, 2004. It's a parody of B movies.
Oh.
It is. It's shot in black and white. It's about a mysterious asteroid that's made out of atmospherium, which is a rare mineral from space that could advance the series, or what's the line? It could mean actual advancements in science. It's just a really, really funny movie. There's a mutant, there's a skeleton, there's an evil scientist, there's like all the greatest hits. There's a woman composed of 5 different forest animals. It's great.
So you were not lying when you talk about how much you enjoy a good B movie, in that this has immediately gone from the tape episode to Sean convinces everybody to watch the movie about B movies.
I can keep talking. One of the local cinemas.
So, anyway.
Yeah, okay. All right. Fair. You got me.
We'll just slip in a little bit every episode, if that'll make you happy. So yes, you were talking about the noodle picker, and now that I've gotten that talking point out of the way, let's talk about the noodle picker just a little bit, because I love that's where this episode started from. That makes me so happy. So,
well, the thing is, I didn't do a lot of research on the noodle picker because I'm saving that, because I need to cover that. It's so weird,
and it is weird, and there's not.
It's a drum.
I hope you find some good information on it, because it's not like the history on it. I haven't seen a lot of good stuff, but for people who don't know, because I think we've been talking about a few things here without much context. One,
yeah, that's fair.
To carry off the last one, because this occurred to me when I was talking about it. Plan 9 from Outer Space is a B movie, and there is an operating system that they made at Bell Labs. It's the successor to Unix, and it was called Plan 9 from
everything
Plan 9
is
from
a
Bell
file.
Labs.
Everything actually is a file.
Actually,
it's fascinating.
So noodle picker, and as far as explaining things to the listeners who need some context. So the noodle picker is this fantastic thing that you should look up if you have not, or if you're not aware of it. It was this IBM storage technology that off the top of my head, I don't remember. I actually have the wiki page up, so let's see.
It's 60s or 70s.
Oh, it's a System 360 thing, yeah. In 64, definitely. It says.
64, really? That's wild.
I mean, I'm looking at the wiki page, so take it with a grain of salt. It says, withdrawn from marketing in January 1975 on the current iteration of the wiki page.
That's crazy. That's so much earlier than I assumed.
It's this crazy system it's made out of strips of tape, essentially, and it's kind of like a wicked. Yeah, that's why it's called a noodle picker. Like they're about the size of a sheet of lasagna. That's why it's perfect. And it just like kind of is. It's like a super compact, hyper efficient tape library is kind of what it is. And the idea is also supposed to be that it's way faster to access than tape because it's not linear. You can pick you basically have a basket of these noodles and you index to a noodle, and there's effectively a little robot arm, which is, the Seek head in a hard drive is a robot arm. So we're not talking a crazy complicated robot arm, but it's more along those lines when I say robot arm. And it grabs your noodle, picks it, basically like scans it, and then puts it back. And
it's just so funny.
It was way faster than seeking tape, and apparently could hold a lot of data. But that's not what the episode is about. But that is great that it got you kicked off. And I just want to tell everybody,
easy to
go look at a
nerd
noodle
snipe.
picker.
People nerd snipe me all the time, and stuff's just running in the back of my head for like years because
it's functionally your job.
Yeah,
is being nerd sniped.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So finally, with all the things that need to be gotten out of the system, we can go into kind of uniservo potpourri, because the main episode, the context was, you're definitely trying to go for the genesis of tape more generally, but that pretty much leads immediately to uniservo, because the uniservo is the first commercialized storage tape.
It leads to uniservo, and then almost immediately to the IBM 726, 762.
That sounds right.
It's three digits. The first IBM tape drive. Because that is like a pretty immediate response to Uniservo. But yeah,
You nailed it, 726.
yes,
Good job.
The real heart of the story. I have all those IBM serial numbers right off the dome, right?
Jesus, that makes one of us.
The real heart of the story is what was going on at the Eckert-Mauchly Computer Company, because they're the first to really productize and deliver tape. Essentially, there's next episode. There's some possible contention. I'm already dipping back into tape a little bit, but like,
when I hear Eckert-Mauchly and any
core.
Eckert-Mauchly early UNIVAC story, all I can think of is, if you really think first mover advantage is a thing,
no.
Eckert-Mauchly. Let's just invent everything.
Oh my god!
At least in like North American terms, and then just like immediately lose it all.
Well, it's funny because they had so much talent, but there just wasn't. Or at least my read on the story has always just been that they underestimated just how expensive it would actually be to make a computer from scratch. Especially since they were going from ENIAC's not stored program, UNIVAC is, and that jump is like going to light speed.
Well, and again, like you mentioned in the episode, because I think that the way you mentioned it was really good, even though I don't remember how it was exactly, but just talking about how the kind of the leak of the first report of a draft on
the EDVAC report. Yeah.
It sucks so hard for them and is so good for computing in general, in that thanks to you, I've been really on a spree about EDSAC lately.
Oh, good. Yeah,
because EDSAC's super interesting, but like EDSAC is
based
so
off the
very much right. It's very much just like he clearly read that paper and said, "Well, I'm going to do that." And
so did a lot of early computers.
And so did a lot of early people, and that is cool. But it's just one of those other things where it's just like, it's kind of this stolen glory from the
yes and no,
Pittsburgh
because
guys.
Well, not from Pittsburgh. They're from Philly.
No, I always get that wrong.
Enough.
I should have just gone with Pennsylvania.
So what's interesting is UNIVAC, the corporation, when they rename, they try to patent some components of computing, right? And it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't hold up in court.
Right.
So I don't think they're planning on patenting EDVAC and making like patent licensable EDVAC clones would have actually helped them that much.
Yeah.
I think it was just too broad.
And again, like you say, nobody was manufacturing that kind of thing at scale yet. And I'm sure that's the reason why, IBM becomes the guys, is because they already are manufacturing that kind of equipment at scale. And it's just a pivot for them.
Well, the thing with a tabulator is that's almost a computer. If it has, a lot of them already have memory. Like some IBM tabulators straight up have drum. So you just kind of need to kick it a little bit to make it a computer. And you can do that. IBM can do that because they got it.
Right. So about Uniservo, it's the first tape system. It is integral to the UNIVAC as a system.
No, the Binax converter is technically earlier.
Tell me your favorite things about the Binax converter, because I didn't write any notes about Binax.
It's just weird. Binax, a weird computer. I don't get it. I do get it. My favorite thing about the converter is all the diagrams of it just show like a cabinet with a reel-to-reel tape deck horizontal on top of it. So it just kind of looks like it's weird. It just looks like a cabinet, honestly,
that we ended up. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things that's in my head about it that comes immediately rushing back. Is the funny thing is almost every other open reel tape system is horizontal.
Yeah.
Like the U-matic, I think, whatever. There are several like open reel videotape formats, but if you look at them, they're all giant horizontal units with the reels like sitting on top of the table effectively. And then like, again, I always come back to music stuff, me being me, and I'm going to come back to this again for this episode because I can't not, because it's tape, and music and tape are obviously also integrated.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a touch. But like big professional recording decks, if you've ever seen them, like from the glory days of analog recording, they are also horizontally mounted. All
I
those
wonder-
2-inch tape decks.
I wonder why that is, because once we get vacuum columns, or I guess really once we get digital tape that has the descending loops, you kind of have to be vertical, because you don't need gravity for the feed mechanism, but it helps a lot to set it up, because you need the tape to kind of fall a little bit.
Yeah, it makes me wonder.
But
Well, I guess
Binac
that's the
didn't
thing
do that.
because with video tape, I was about to say, I wonder why that was with videotape, but it's because
Yeah, the
that tape
transport
transport
mechanism,
also
yeah.
isn't moving very fast. It's the helical scan head that's moving fast. So yeah, no, you're totally right. Is that it kind of needs to be vertical because of that. So,
And also the whole loop situation only helps if you're scanning back and forth. It doesn't help speed you up if you're just doing continuous one direction operations.
right. And so the Binac converter did
No
not
loops.
have I mean, yeah, but it did you talk about what speed that tape is running at and
It
stuff?
went
Is
at-
it slow?
It's slow. It
Okay.
was literally just to bit bash data into memory to bootstrap the computer. It can't even go backwards. I mentioned on the show in the Binac manual, which there was one copy of because there's only one Binac.
I mean, it's amazing that there is a manual, honestly.
And that it's preserved. But the manual literally says, if you want to rewind the tape, take it off the converter. If you don't want to take it off the converter, remove the felt pad and then rewind it.
Amazing. Pop it off and put it in your Be Kind
not good.
Rewind VHS rewinder.
Yeah, exactly. Just not. It's like that. I mentioned on the show that technically the proper fact is that Binac, first computer with a tape drive. That's not a good fact. That doesn't.
And you know
It's
what?
not winning any awards.
Yeah, no. What also pops into my head when you say that is, or when you talk about it being kind of a one read only system just for bootstrapping. Weird parallel there with IBM microcode floppies.
Oh yeah,
Because that's why the floppy drive is invented.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't
Very,
know,
very
is for
similar.
microcode on IBM machines, and that's exactly how that one works too. Is it just reads the data off of it into microcode memory, and
will
that's
say
how you get your microcode onto your machine.
the difference with Binac is its tape drive is read write, so you can dump memory onto a tape.
Right. Yep,
So
that
you
was
can
mentioned.
then again turn the computer on and load the tape back in to reboot the computer. It's a very purpose-built device.
I mean, it's better than nothing. Certainly
Yeah,
got to be better than loading and backing up on punch card
you
or
do actually need some kind of data storage for a computer to work. It turns out,
ideally.
ideally.
Unless you want to hand toggle everything in every time.
that ain't programming. That's suffering.
Yes. And you know that's bad because every single computer that's the front panel just exists to get you to the loading from a different thing.
Yeah.
There is no point at which they're running the computer off the front panel 100% of the time.
That'd be
They're immediately
miserable.
no, this sucks. Let's load in from something else.
Where were we?
I mean, this
were
was just
talking about
Uniservo general potpourri chat, so we're still good. And this is where I just wanted to get some of the things off my head that I did not write down and were in my head specifically about the episode. One thing is the Uniservo tape. I just always picture that metal tape. That sounds horrifying, and I'm sure because you said it's 1 mil, right?
Yeah.
Which is
so it's
that's very thin.
0.025 millimeters. It's nothing.
So, but what I picture in my head is like a coil spring. You know what I mean?
Well, that's really some of the first audio tape was like that, where it was almost spring steel. It was pretty thick steel tape. So that did exist, and it was dangerous.
Jeez,
But this
that just
stuff
seems like
wasn't
a bad idea.
Well, yeah. There's a reason we don't use that anymore, Joe. It wasn't a good idea.
But it sounds very, and I'm not even going for the pun, it sounds metal as hell. Oh, and this goes to,
it does
speaking
sound
of metal as hell, the changing your oil on your tape drive is also
Yes.
pretty freaking good.
For some reason, there's always something that tickles me about the idea of expendable resources around computers.
Yeah.
Because that feels so antiquated. That feels
Yeah,
like,
we just- It's been a trajectory of getting rid of as much of that. Any moving parts, mechanical parts, expendable parts.
In my head,
a core of development.
It always makes me think of, I forget where, like if this was even a joke, but I remember reading about people saying, oh, the automobile will never catch on. You can't drive your car down to the bar, get drunk, and drive it home. That's dangerous. You can do that with a horse, though. And so whenever it's like, oh, you have to change the oil on your computer, that's like, well, a horse will take you home from the bar. There's just something where it's like, that's so quaint.
Yes. Oh, quaint is a very good word.
Like with the Cryotron computer stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, you can have a very, very fast, super high-tech futuristic computer. It's made out of superconductors. You have to change the helium in it. You have to literally charge it with helium. Yeah, or it won't work. It's just funny.
I'm just picturing putting your Uniservo up on a jack, rolling under it with a dolly,
Yeah. And I'm sure it wouldn't have been that horrific.
No.
But still, the idea that, like, oh, it's Tuesday, time to oil the UNIVAC.
Yes. I guess at this point, I'm trying to think if I have anything else that I want to say about Uniservo beyond things that I can say in other topics. And I'm going to press on to audio tape and data tape being actually parallel developments. Because I just think that is such a good... It's a good, factoid is not the right word because factoid doesn't mean what you think it means. Factoid means fun factoid. It means something that's not true, is what factoid means.
I can give you a fun factoid.
Oh boy. Lay it on me.
This is also something that's been rent-free in my head lately. You know how there's all those computers that names end with AC, right?
Yeah.
So here's the factoid. They're all related.
In that they're all automatic computers? Oh, that's the...
No, that's the factoid.
You're using the factoid correctly. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have stumbled onto the persnickety language people podcast.
I keep wanting to make a bad, fake family tree around, that lie, but that feels unethical. I think it'll be very, very funny, though.
You can't do that now, Sean. You're a source of truth. You're a trusted name, and you might be able to get away with it.
I mean, yes, George Dyson says some very incorrect things about the lineage of the IAS machine. So why not make a funny little family tree about AC computers, right?
We just nobody knows anything. There are no facts.
No.
But yeah, so audio tape and data tape being parallel developments is just a thing that it's not a thing that I think you're going to look up very often. Like, if you're into computers, I don't know why you would look up in particular or be particularly curious about when magnetic tape as a thing was invented or when that started, and it just kind of pops into existence and you don't really care about how or when. Yeah. But I think it's great because when you look into it, I would have assumed prior to doing any research on it that audio tape would be older than it is.
Right.
Maybe not even significantly, but I don't realize that it's as late as it is in that it doesn't really come it's a World War II thing, which seems wild because I don't know. It just seems like such
what always trips me up is really early radio. They had to do it all live because they didn't have tape.
Yes. Yeah. And that's great.
So when radio comes out, you can do pre-recorded radio.
Yeah.
Which is a huge change.
And radio is a solved commercial thing. By before the 20s, by the 20s, they're starting to figure out how to invent TV.
But it all has to be live unless you're going to press a phonograph of a recording and replay that.
I guess there's an interesting thing. Yeah. I didn't think about that. Is maybe this is one of the reasons that it makes me feel like that should not be the reality of the situation is, from early on in recording, you would cut directly to acetate. Or, you'd cut directly to a shellac master in a recording studio. And that way predates tape, recorded music was a thing onto records, and you still didn't have tape.
I think
for decades.
The big differentiating factor with a more direct recording medium like shellac or wax, really, right, is that's all analog. That's all non-electronic, all physical.
Mhm.
But tape, you have to have technology around, like you have to have vacuum tubes, you have to have really good E&M kind of understanding to make a tape head.
Yeah.
Because a tape head isn't that complicated if you know how to make it, but if you're trying to figure that out from first principles, good luck, buddy. You're going to have a very interesting time.
It takes me back to some of the stuff that we've talked about, and it kind of is a theme throughout, but where like when we were talking about mercury delay lines and stuff, in that doesn't seem like that complicated of an idea, and all of engineering is so much more than you think tweaking more than anything else, until you can get all of your constants that you're using just in the right range where it is stable and you have good error bars on either side of it.
Well, reproducible too.
Yes, and reproducible. Yeah, gosh, that's just maybe it's extra present to me because lately I've been trying to build a DTMF decoder. I'm not very good at analog electronics, so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Is I'm trying to build a filter bank, and nothing, like everything is tweaking. I am reading documents on how to build bandpass filters, and of course it doesn't like quite work, and everything is going to have to be like adjustable pots a little bit because just the error is a necessary part of that system. So that's just very present to me right now. But yeah, so same thing with this is like the tape, designing tape isn't so much about having the idea. It's about tweaking your formulation and tweaking the way you're doing it until it works reliably.
Yeah, getting the execution right. And that's iteration, especially when it is so early in the chronology.
Yeah, because you're developing it.
Yeah, you're developing it. You don't have, well, even when you do have patents, like they were working off at EMCC, that's not enough to know how to make a tape. The other thing is
patents for things that don't work.
Yeah, patents can be fake. Like you can have a patent for something that's unique. There's patents for time machines. That doesn't mean someone has a time machine. Well, there's one time machine, but
we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about John Titor. We're not going there.
But yeah, another thing just about audio tape and data tape. So, because I don't think it was mentioned in the episode, but I read a tiny bit, and Uniservo is parallel tracks on the tape.
Yeah, it's 8 tracks.
Which I was curious about because I don't know why, I didn't really assume, but just in the back of my head, I kind of had a vision of it being a single track situation, like it would have started single track, because having heads that dense that early is actually, again, because mostly I know anything about tape in terms of old school music stuff. And
gotcha.
For example, like the Beatles didn't start doing like big multi-track recordings until fairly late in their career.
Well,
and I mean anybody, but because
that's pretty obvious because they didn't go to
tape
UNIVAC. Machines.
Oh, right. That's the
they could have gone to UNIVAC.
Yeah.
So if you read
those fools, and I think it's because of the bandwidth, probably like you need to have much wider tracks for analog stuff. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because like
so there's two
multi-track machines were a big problem spot in recording, and that early on Uniservo, you're in the 50s and you've already got 6 or 7 track.
8. You have 8 tracks.
8. Parody and clock, right? And
so there's two things about that. One is if you go and read the documents, if you read the white papers, Joe.
Okay.
They actually spent a lot of time figuring out how to get the heads to work, and over the lifetime of the Uniservo tape drives, they changed the heads. They're constantly upgrading it because they're finding cheaper and more reliable ways to build it. So one of the papers I was reading, they have 4-track heads that they stagger, so they can like fit tracks between each other on the heads. The other thing is with digital, you don't have to worry about bleed over in the same way as with analog.
Right, which is basically what I was just kind of
that's exactly what you were saying. Because digital has logic levels, analog doesn't. A digital signal isn't going to sound muddy. It's either going to work or not work. You're not going to be like, I can't hear the bass in this accounting record. That's not the same
You
kind
really
of
need this is the problem with the Uniservos. It doesn't have that analog warmth, you know?
No, it does. It just really doesn't. It's not the same as shellac.
And that was another thing that I just kind of zooped past there, but that I thought it was interesting that there is a clock track on there. Because not having read a ton clearly about tape stuff, but I was vaguely aware that like IBM tape is just, it's the data tracks, basically. I have never heard of a clock track being on there. And it makes me think of, like we were talking drums and how it's kind of interesting because
it's like the LGP30. Everything's like the LGP30, Joe.
Yeah. But that you can have your like synchronization clocking stuff on the drum in that situation. Mm-hmm. And with this tape, you have a clocking synchronization thing on there, which
it's a really smart way to simplify sync. Because if you don't do that, you got to worry about sync. But if you just have the sync signal coming out of your device,
done.
Oh, well, done. Yeah, easy. Or easier.
I was going to say, I like how we say easy, because the other thing that in my head that I want to say easy to is, it's kind of neat the way that, also another thing that I can't remember if it was in the episode. I don't think it was, but that reading, there's a dedicated block size tank that the Uniservo just dumps each block into. So there's a thing. Actually, I was avoiding you talk, but that reminds me of a thing that I need to get back to on general Uniservo stuff that I want to talk.
I was going to say I was avoiding the I/O buffers because that's a whole different discussion. Yeah. For some reason, I haven't done an episode on UNIVAC, and I should.
Have you not?
I was looking through my archive because I'm working on an episode right now, as I always am. And it was like, oh, I need a fact about UNIVAC. Let me go find my old script because I'll have the research there. And I'm like, I can't find any scripts called UNIVAC. Did I lose my file? I'm like looking through my RSS feed. It's like, no, I just haven't done an episode on UNIVAC.
You're just having this hallucination about work that you haven't done. It immediately occurs to me, it's just too mainstream. UNIVAC just way too mainstream for your channel.
Obviously. No, I need to UNIVAC. I need to do that because I've actually just in the last couple of weeks identified some of the sources about the initial contracting for like how UNIVAC was paid for. Which with these really early computers is I think a super important part of the story.
Well, are we talking about like seed money for like spinning up manufacturing and development, or
we're talking about like seed money from the National Bureau of Standards to investigate feasibility of making a computer, kind of early seed money. And I found like the newsletters that the NSB put out in the period being like, oh, here's where we put this money, and here's the progress report for the month. Anyway, I need to do more UNIVAC.
Yeah, UNIVAC is a whole thing. I'll try not to get too deep into it because that would be a great episode someday, or series of episodes or something. The thing I will say is UNIVAC is, it kills me that there are no UNIVACs.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like Computer History Museum has a console. And I think that's like the only thing that I've ever seen that anybody has like a major chunk of a UNIVAC.
I've seen memory tanks from UNIVACs. I think CHM has one. But yeah, I was looking around because so Uniservos have this expendable buffer tape.
Right.
That's just for providing a little bit of lubrication, right? And well, lubrication and protection, hilariously enough.
So that you don't grind away your tape head.
Yeah, you don't do a lot of bad things. You kind of need it. But you can't run a Uniservo without this specific plastic tape. And that'd be really hard to get, I'm sure. And
I mean, no way you're running the thing. I'm just surprised there aren't, like they made, I don't want to say many because I don't know how many were made. It's not like they made a ton, but there were multiple UNIVAC ones made.
I'm just going to fact check you because there is actually a list. There were...
Yeah, if you could give me a number.
1, 2, but like, 3, there was 4, 5,
and
6.
obviously it's, I guess, more obviously historically significant, especially at the time.
18.
All the parts...
A total of 46 systems were delivered.
46?
46. I'm surprised there's not one in some collection somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe there is. I've just never... It just seems a shame to me that, like, there is not a UNIVAC that just someone has.
I was trying to
major
find
parts of the UNIVAC.
if there was one operational. And
it just seems like such an important machine.
It is.
And again, we've got, like, I'm here in Michigan. We have just up the street at U of M, which I think is pretty cool. We have an ENIAC chassis. So, like, there's ENIAC shit all over the place, you know? But no.
Well, there's...
And EDSAC. Let's go to EDSAC. They just dismantled that thing and threw it away. But there was only one of those.
They recreated it, though.
Yes.
There were 53. So there were just slightly more PDP ones, but there's an operational one at CHM. Yeah.
And there's multiple, like, because I think they have an operational one and maybe like one, like a parts one in their warehouse. I think they have
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
But yeah, like those are around.
Need a parts machine. I wonder if part of that is that UNIVACs were in large part owned by feds, so they might have been like decommissioned more seriously.
Yeah, and maybe scrapped and stuff.
One of those first gen computers would be horrific to maintain, like beyond the pale to keep those running.
Well, you got to keep filling them up with oil. It just keeps coming back to that.
You just got to ride the horse home from the bar to fill your computer with
oil budget. Do you have any papers on federal UNIVAC oil budgets? Okay, all right. Yeah, the Uniservo thing that I wanted to say was just that because I was talking about the buffer tank, which I won't get into it too much, but that just in passing, I think it is so cool the software defined nature of the tape in that it's not like totally bit bang, but just the idea that it seems like very, I don't know, obvious when you talk about it, but that, or maybe just like, it seems like a good clean design to say, hey, we just have an instruction for read the current, like read the next block. And then like that will tell you, so you have to keep seeking anyway. So just read a block, see if it's the block you want. If not, seek in the next, read the next block until you find the block you want. And like, how much do you really save by moving that logic over, putting some brains into the tape unit to do that part?
Yeah, you don't save a lot. So what I really want to do, and this would be hard, is go look at period software for UNIVAC. That's probably something I'm going to do when I finally do a UNIVAC episode. But I'm curious how people were programming tape access. Because if the natural way to access data is read a block forward, read a block back, right? I suspect that people are structuring their data so it's convenient to do that, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking of like a struct, right? Where you'd have like, I know that the first block is X, second block is Y, and then if I go 5 blocks in, that's where this data segment starts. So like, in my mind, like if I was working with this tape drive, I'd structure like that and then be able to be like, skip forward 5 blocks and then start reading this. Skip back 10 blocks so I can read that. Like I can see how you do the access pattern, so I'm really curious what the actual access patterns were at the time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Because it also occurs to me that that kind of flexibility probably also lends itself to there just being a bajillion different approaches. Because you have such relatively unstructured... because I can't remember whatever defines the the framing of a block, and that's it. And then whatever's in your blocks is totally up to you. Whereas like on as a comparison again for people who don't know the surrounding aspects of what we're talking about, I don't know a ton, but like IBM tape, personally, a lot of those smarts for seeking to stuff is in the tape drive, or not in the tape drive necessarily, but you'll have like a separate controller that you send the controller, hey, go find this block, and it does the seeking until it finds the block and reads the block. Whereas in the UNIVAC,
or at least later IBM tape drives have smarts. I don't think the 701s do.
I feel like I'm curious because it's just IBM had like channel controller stuff in so early. Like, it was such a part of their architecture.
They did. Well, like the 701 is basically a calculator. Like, it's a calculator with a tape drive and punch cards. Because I'm
pretty sure it has some kind of like channel controller external
This episode is turning into Googling instruction sets.
Anyway, moving on. But at the very least, especially later IBM stuff, it's going to be way more structured because like your tape is going to consist of records that consist of multiple blocks. And you're not doing all of the structuring of that. So with the Uniservo, it's pretty much up to you.
No channel controller. 701 has no channel controller unit. Tape's dumb. Tape just exists.
All right. Well, these are things that I am learning on this day. I warned you up front. I don't know. I'm going to be talking out about IBM tape.
There's your factoid that the IBM 701 had a channel controller.
I will be your factoid guy from now on, and then
straight to jail.
Sean, straight to jail. You won't believe it. Straight to jail. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's like take a crazy turn to the thing that I've written down just as magnetic drum in the 30s in Austria. And I must know more about this because I mean, this is potentially too big for even just like this conversation.
Yeah.
You should do an episode on it or something, since apparently I have the power to ask you to do that.
I'm going to do an episode on magnetic drum. That was one of the things. So you'll note sometimes when I rush past stuff in an episode, it's because I go, oh, that's interesting. Save it for later. Oh, no. And that was one of them. I need to do a full episode on magnetic drum because I've done magnetic core. I've done delay lines. If I do drum, that's all of early memory.
And again, it kind of surprises me that you haven't done anything particularly on drum because you're the LGP guy.
I know.
Is part of it. And
drum comes up a lot on the show, but I haven't just done a dedicated episode. In my head, I like to think of, I have like fundamental topic episodes like this one, where it's like, we're talking just about tape, or like when I did the transistor series or some of the memory technology episodes where it's like, we're just focusing on a fundamental technology. And then there's other episodes where fundamental tech comes up, like the LGP30 episodes. Drum's a very important part, but it's not about the history of drum.
Right. It just happens to be there.
Yeah. But I need to do a history of drum because, yes, 1930s at an IBM subsidiary in Austria, that boggles the mind for a number of reasons.
Well, and also, I know you're going somewhere, I can see it in your eyes, and I'm just going to say, the first thing to me was when like those words started coming out of the podcast, I was going to be like, yeah, the Adanasoff-Berry computer had that like capacitor drum memory. So
not magnetic though. Right.
And so that's what I assumed it was going to be. And then just a magnetic drum in Austria thing comes out of left field.
So I have tendrils for how I want to approach that already. One of the weird things is it was developed in an IBM subsidiary in Austria, but not at Dehomag, which is the IBM subsidiary that provided equipment to the Nazi regime.
I was, wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad, because I was going to joke, is that the Nazi one? But no,
it's straight not, there. Which is weird that there's another one in the region. And so I don't...
the not Nazi one.
The not Nazi one. Well, can't confirm. I haven't done the research, but I'm curious if it like got wrapped into Dehomag later. Because, creeping fascism and state-sponsored companies absorbing other corporations, like maybe it did. There's just a lot there. The other thing is so when I do that episode, I'm going to have to look at use of magnetic drums and tabulators, and if that's something that IBM intentionally did a lot of, because they had the patent. That was like the big thing, is their subsidiary patented it, so IBM had patent rights to use magnetic drum in the 30s.
And that kind of...
But when does that show up?
It makes sense. Like, it tracks because if you read about... I don't know if it's the 701, but a bunch of those early 700 series, or like some of them, drum is a like fairly standard option on there. And if you like read the IBM 700 wiki page, it's just like, yep, memory was Williams tubes, and it also had a drum storage.
But the
and it just kind of happens, and you're just like, that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And I never thought about it, but this makes me think about it, where I'm like, oh, it comes from somewhere. There was a place at IBM that it's coming from, and it shows up.
Joe, the important word there is and drum.
Yeah.
Because it's an option.
Right.
There are a lot of...
It's like your...
it's your extra memory.
Yeah. It's your swap space.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot. There's a number of early machines that do optional drum, which is so wild to me. So, yes, there's TLDR. I need to do a drum episode. That should be coming soon-ish, I think.
Yeah, I'll try and save all my questions for then.
Yes, good. We should move on then.
We should.
For safety.
Yes, because now we get into... my outro subjects are kind of beefy this time, or maybe like my late episode topics, because the things that I really wanted to talk about beyond the scope of the episode itself is the pervasiveness of tape, the legacy of tape. I've got it kind of broken into two subjects here. So the first one is the longevity of tape. And the main thing that I wanted to talk about there was just talking about how tape just keeps existing. Like, it's one of the first long-term storage formats in computing.
Well, not one of it is the.
I guess so.
The only other thing is punch cards, and those weren't, depending on how you look at it, they're not really long-term storage. They're more like temporary or medium-term storage.
And again, as we always talk about in the IBM scope, like, they're not a computer technology, right? So like, well, they are like a supercomputer related thing, and they are again kind of like tape, an icon of early computing. They're not as much like tape as this episode kind of unfolds, a computer-centric technology. Yeah. And because I forget that you say in the episode that, like, the thing about tape is that you need to get information in and out of a computer real fast, and that there was no good way of doing that, because cards are slow as hell. Real fast. Real to real fast.
Oh, that's really bad.
The puns just keep on coming. That's what you get when you tune into this show.
I mean, like, talking about changing the oil on a computer, punch cards are a consumable. IBM made a lot of money selling them because you burn through them. They're not meant to stick around forever. You know,
this doesn't occur to me, but I bet you're doing a lot of lubricational maintenance on old IBM equipment as well. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's all moving parts.
Have you been to the 1401 lab at the Computer History Museum?
It
smells like a machine shop because there's so much oil and lubrication in that.
Yeah, I think the only time I've been there was before they had the 1401 set up. So
go there sometime. Next time you're in California, we'll go. And just inhale.
I can't think of a good reason to come out.
Oh, come on. you have to breathe the air in the 1401 lab and go, yep, that smells like a machine shop. Where is all that oil? Oh my goodness.
Just in the air, I can imagine.
Fascinating.
So yeah, longevity of tape, which it's an obvious subject. Like I said, it's the first one, and it's still with us. Like, I feel like we're finally. It's pretty recent, because I don't even know like how alive tape is at this point. Because I know, like, at companies I was working at in the last 10 years, I know they were still sending backup tapes to Iron Mountain. You know. And I'm sure Iron Mountain probably still does tapes, but I feel like people have moved. My impression would be that it's probably mostly gone to large capacity hard drives and cold storage at this point. But I don't really know. Because the thing is, I don't think tapes have gotten... They kind of stopped getting bigger. Because the thing about tapes was they kept getting denser and denser and bigger. And then
they don't even necessarily need to get bigger, because the utility is it's very, very stable.
Yeah.
Right. It's you put your data there and it's there forever.
Well, then why don't we put it on metal tape, Sean? Because then you could put it in a vault and set it on fire.
That's a good question. That's actually a really good question. I don't know. We We should find someone that works at like iOmega and ask them, or whoever makes tapes these days.
iOmega, the company that is well known for their reliable storage.
Do they still exist? I'm just trying to think.
I feel like iOmega must have gotten bought by somebody.
Fact check. Okay, here's my factoid. iOmega is going to buy X.com. That's my factoid.
Dang. All right. You heard it here. You get your, make your trades now, everyone.
Everyone buy iOmega. Is that an iOmega in your hand?
It's a compact tape. Because as Sean didn't know until, I think, last episode when we were chatting after the episode, I own a VAX.
Yes. That's right.
But so it has a compact tape drive.
Your VAX has a tape drive. That's kick-ass.
Yeah, if you're watching, this one is chewed up. And I've never gotten that tape drive working.
That's really
sad. I haven't spent a ton of time on it. Like, it's just it needs super cleaning. Like there's a infrared sensor that determines when the leader is in the initial position. And so it'll just kind of keep seeking for the beginning of that and then just give up. And I've never been able to figure out like why I can't get that clean. I don't know.
The longevity of tape, right?
Yeah, that's 80s. And that was like, that's the boot media or I shouldn't say, it's like it's your initial boot media for that VAX. It doesn't have a floppy drive on it. It has two big ass hard drives in it for having the installed operating system on it and a compact tape drive. And you like, this is how you would get system software for a VAX,
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of,
and so that's late 80s. Cause I want to say my Microvax 8600 is like 89.
Okay.
And
one thing that I do want to cover eventually on the show is how we make that transition from mainframe tape to microcomputer tape. Because that's such a fundamentally different technology where it's cheap, but in theory it works in a similar way, right? And so how did that happen? Because early on tape, as we saw, very adaptable. It's new, it's high tech, it changes fast. And then somehow tape still transitions to this weird micro cost reduced thing. And that I think is going to be like the really interesting thing once I get around to researching it, is how do we make that jump?
Right. And it's just amazing that it sticks around in that, I mean, it's obvious the reason it sticks around, kind of like you're saying, it is very stable, but also it's, for a long time, cheap. It is like just because it's a big, long friggin' thing, you can fit a lot of stuff on it. And it's just your obvious cost benefit trade-off of, you can fit a lot, it's pretty slow, it's not random access, but you can fit a lot. So
it's conservative just stays technology.
In this niche.
Yeah, and it's conservative technology in the sense of we've been making tape at this point forever, and we know how to do it well.
Are you saying no one ever got fired for buying tape drives?
No one ever got fired for buying metal tape because it doesn't melt.
It doesn't, you can't do it. It stays magnetized even.
You can't set metal tape on fire. That just doesn't happen.
I've tried. You can't do it.
I brought it to 500 degrees. Oh, well. Then you're reacting it chemically. I think that's slightly different.
It's a little different. I just have it on here as a note. I don't know if there's anything I can say here, but as far as things to mention on the longevity of tape, is tape libraries are sick. That's all I have to say about that.
Cool as all get out. Like, listener, if you've never seen a tape robot, go look up tape robot on YouTube and watch a video on one.
I'll do you one better.
Just really cool.
Listener, if you don't know what a tape library is, if you're like, I could give a damn about tape, why do I care? Just like watch the intro, watch the opening scene of the movie Hackers, and then watch the rest of Hackers, because it's a great dumb movie. But the whole opening of that is it's a tape library fight. Do you know the scene that I'm talking about? Because I'm actually seeing a blankness on your face that I'm finding fascinating.
I should go watch that movie.
You should.
Is it a bad movie?
Yes. It does have a certain B movie quality about it.
All right.
It's not like a Z movie. It's not, because I feel like the ones you're talking about at the top are more in your Z movie category.
I will say, while I was putting that hook together, going back to my kitchen table, I I was trying to jog my memory on some of the names of bad films, and my wife was like, Sean, you can't mention most of those films on your show. Your show's not set to non-explicit on iTunes. You can't say that title. It's like, yeah, you're probably right.
The adventure is up to you, listener.
Maybe I do have very bad taste in movies.
And that's okay. I mean, objectively, we have bad taste in computers, too, so... Yeah. They don't work very good.
Although
they're not good computers.
I will say, I was reminded of a beautiful movie last night.
And that was?
Are you familiar with Electro the Robot, Joe?
Yeah. You did episodes on Electro, did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that was Electro you. I listen to so much stuff, I can't remember what's you sometimes.
It's this fascinating
those ones.
Robot from RCA. Or no,
the smoking robot.
Sorry. Yeah, from Westinghouse. It smokes, it blows up balloons, it walks, it has a dog and a wife. It went to Hawaii. Apparently it's getting restored. They found
No.
YouTube, the algorithm got me right for once and recommended a video this guy did about the history of Electro that ends with him talking about, and he went and interviewed the guys that are restoring it, who are the grandchildren of the guy that built it, which is fascinating.
That's really so nice.
Cool. It's really nice.
That's a sweet story. But yeah, I would have assumed that was like in a trash pile somewhere.
Oh, it was. It has been at multiple points.
Yeah.
Because it's...
it's a
giant smoking robot.
Sheet metal.
Yeah. But he was in a film called Sex Kittens Go to College, which is one of the worst films I've seen in my life. But talking about old bad movies and bad taste in film.
Is that movie is what got you into Electro, is now I'm seeing. It's not the other way around.
Oh, yeah. No, it is the other way. Because I did the Electro episode, and I'm like, I should go watch that movie, and I did. It's not worth watching.
But at least now you know.
Oh, my God. It is worse than you could imagine. It has robotic sexual harassment, which... Mm-hmm. Why would you put that in a movie? You can just...
Why would you put those words together?
Not do that. You can... Someone chose to do that, Joe. And the human faculty of choice is fascinating to me. Especially when people do something that's obviously a bad decision. Just trying to think about why you choose that.
It was a different time. Okay, next topic. And then we'll get out of here, because it's getting to be time. Is the legacy of tape. A subtly different topic than
the longevity of tape.
Because the longevity of tape it's an easy subject, you know? I mean, we kind of covered it.
It stays around.
It's been around, it fits a niche, and it's kind of cool how long it's lasted, and it's potentially still there, and we're just not really aware of it. But the legacy of tape, I think, is interesting, because it's a little more subtle in that you start with the obvious things. Like if you're a Unix, Linux head, tar is a format that we use.
Tape archive.
For everything. And it's a tape archive. And I don't know, just as an early Linux user, I didn't know that. And I didn't, I don't know. But that's literally what tar is for. You're supposed to tar directly to a tape.
I knew that the first time I learned about tar because I read the man page and it says tar tape archive.
Well, you know what?
The first 3 words.
I was too cool to read the man archives. All right.
Just type man tar. I actually got into an argument with one of my coworkers about tar this week because I'm like, I'm not going to stream data from this API endpoint. I'm going to have it return a payload because I need binary and I need like JSON data. He's like, well, you could have it stream tar data. And I'm like, no. Why would you suggest that? That's an awful suggestion. He's like,
is this a thing that is done?
I don't know if it's a thing that's done or not.
Well, I will say, to interject right in here, this immediately makes me think of, and I can't remember if they're moving to it or if they are moving away from it. But did you know that Windows subsystem for Linux communicates with the Windows file system over 9p?
Over 9p? What's 9p?
9p is the network protocol underlying Plan 9 to get us all the way back to the beginning.
What?
Yeah, it's still used for a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I cannot remember if they're just now transitioning away from it or if they're going to start using it.
We got their labs again.
Yeah. Apparently hilarious. 9p is real good. Very
not
useful, and I still
surprising.
use it for stuff. Yeah.
Plan
It's
9
one of the
is
technologies
the
that
correct
made it out of
operating
Plan
system.
9, and apparently it was just really well designed. But yeah, speaking of legacy of things, but more subtly, and I mean, it's not that subtle, but like sequential file access and seeking is, we don't access files randomly, really. Like almost universally when you're like, how often do you write a program unless you're doing something that like specifically, and I haven't in my career, that needs to like mem map in or something like a file into memory because you need to access it randomly.
So,
or you're
I
writing
will
like a
say-
loader or something that, again, that's just mem mapping the file in, and then you're reading the structure of the file directly in memory.
I will
You're
say,
opening
Joe,
and seeking a file in a sequential way.
Yes, that's like the underlying way you do it, but you're not a CDN ghoul like I am.
Oh no.
As someone who's worked in CDNs for all of my professional career, we mediate so much stuff over HTTP that we don't have to seek because you can do byte range requests. So a lot of the software that I end up actually writing has to care about byte ranges for like picking specific things out.
Yeah, because you're work for a streaming company essentially. So
like it is interesting that HTTP actually breaks you out of sequential access if you're smart about it.
I think that's honestly that's getting way too modern for us, but that seems still like just a magical element of HTTP at this point is the arbitrary like offset stuff.
Yes,
because I never mess with it, but I'm aware it's there, and so much of our like modern internet usage is based on streaming and accessing large files and just like the fact that you can just bop into a podcast or a YouTube video just like in the middle of it, and it doesn't have to load all of the beginning of the video because it's just a thing that's supported by the protocol is magic.
Well, I'm really curious now how that actually works on the back end. I might need to go like read the source code for Apache later.
Oh yeah.
Because I wonder if that has to read sequentially, because file handles are sequential. I wonder what kind of magic it's doing, because I literally a few days ago I was working on a program that pulls ID3 data out of an MP3 file using byte range requests because I just needed like 2 bits or something, right? And I wonder if on the back end...
So you were downloading a shave and a haircut?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's doing some smart caching stuff on the back end. There has to be a trick,
because the whole point of doing byte range access is it makes it so you don't have to load the full file into memory. And if the server's doing that, then that kind of negates that. So what we're learning here is that it was only until Web 2.0 that we finally escaped the crushing grip of linear tape access as a... Yeah. And it's just, I have it as another note. It gave me... So I finally started reading Programming Pearls. Because I just... it was a copy that I got in one of my random thrift book hauls. It's a great book.
Yeah, it is. It's excellent, and I know it's always on the recommended list, but I have never gotten around to it. But I love that. I mean, it's like I want to say Programming Pearls is like 80s, right?
It's old.
Yeah,
enough,
but it's not like 60s old. It's like 80s old. And in there, he has a bunch of like. I mean, I've only read the first couple chapters, but it made me smile, and it was before I listened to this episode. And then I was smiling more that he's talking about how would you do this algorithm, assuming that you have to do a sort and you've got 2 tape drives and like a K of memory to deal with. And then I listened to this episode and I was like, wow, that became weirdly relevant all of a sudden. And now I'm wondering how I would do this algorithm with 2 tape drives and a...
I'll tell you, Joe, very, very carefully.
Very carefully. All right. Well, everyone, that is that. Tape is a wonderful and long-lasting technology that, I mean, we went over. It kind of underpins the history of computers through to the present. And
well, it's something that we're going to have to come back to. I'm going to have to come back to because it is just such a huge topic.
Yeah. And I hope, I mean, there's more to talk about, I'm sure, if you kind of ended off at then IBM picked it up and stole all of their ideas and then became the dominant standard. And then, poor Eckhart Mauchly.
I know. I know.
Yeah. Until next time, that was Tapes. We are, I keep just wanting to say advent of computing. I think it's just because I hear that and I don't hear adjunct of computing.
Well, because you say adjunct of computing.
Right. So it's not in my brains. It's coming out of my brains and then it leaves forever. Thank you, everyone, as always, for tuning into Adjunct of Computing. Always a fun time. And we'll see you around. And I assume Sean will have another great episode for us.
That's the plan.
On the next Monday. That's the hope.
Catch you around.
It might be a terrible episode, but we're going to listen to it anyway.
Ooh,
damn it.
Don't say that.
See ya.